Hi, once again. I have decided to give a little history, if you like, of probably my life. It seems a sensible thing to do, to put memories down. I was always told to always write things down, but modern times, got video cameras and you can do it that way. Anyhow, you won't see my ugly mug in this video. Excuse the untidiness in the room. As I said on the previous video I put up, I haven't been feeling all that well, and this is probably what's made me decide to give a little spiel on perhaps my history, if you like. Anyhow, I was always of the opinion that to learn history was a complete waste of time. Why learn about things which had happened many years ago? I was wrong. Someone, a good friend of mine who I worked with, called Keith, unfortunately he's no longer with us, he said if you don't know history, you won't know the future. And his words were true. So true. Anyhow, without getting too mournful, I popped up just after World War II. Yep, I can remember bomb sites. My pussy's come awake. I remember bomb sites, houses with gaps where bombs come down and taking it out. I remember my father, he was photographing a doodlebug. I obviously don't remember it. I was a little bit too young for that. But a doodlebug is kind of bomb, was a flying bomb sent over from, I believe, Pudemünde in Germany. And all the while they were flying, you were safe. And he was taking a picture of it. At any time, the engine could have cut out and it would have, in fact, been a bomb. But anyhow, that's what the doodlebug was. They were terrible things. Anyhow, I've got a visitor. It's nice, actually. One very good friend. Yep, that's the doodlebug. Remember? Well, I don't remember them, but they were in my time, growing up time, I suppose. Also, being in an Anderson shelter, which was what my next door neighbours had. So many things I can remember, or perhaps because I was told about them. That might be the thing. I was told about them. But anyhow, that was the early experiences. And I also believe at Balham, which was down the road from where I lived, well, more than down the road, a bomb had landed and made a sort of a crater, and the London Transport bus drove into it. So that was another infamous event. So all in all, some horrible things happened during the war, and I suppose after that things tended to brighten up. I remember being taken to the flour mill where my father worked. That was quite an interesting experience. The mill's no longer there. Where the building was is great office blocks. I believe one of them was the headquarters from either British Telecom or the police, but that embankment has completely changed, and I remember it when I went to the mill with my father. He was a joiner and worked in wood, and obviously was quite involved with it. And yeah, those days they were quite interested. And also, I would perhaps nip out while I was there to see some of the sites in London, which were mainly interesting electrical shops selling surplus equipment. Just remember, we had just had a war, so surplus equipment was quite the thing. Yeah, very interesting. Remember Lisle Street. What's the other one? Tottenham Court Road. Proops. They were an interesting shop. If any of you remember it, put a note in. But definitely Proops was a very interesting electrical and accessories of various bits and pieces. It had quite a footage in the shop. You used to go in and went right the way through. But like everything else, they no longer exist. All the interesting shops have gone. There was a few antique shops which I was interested to have a look at. So it was remembering things. Now, coming more towards this time, I remember being, well, not marched in, but in '53 there was the coronation, and I remember having to sit through that, which as a kid I was bored to tears. Absolutely bored to tears. I just didn't understand what was going on. We saw that on a thing called a television. Well, we didn't have one, but my neighbours did. They had an old TV. I say old. It was at the time modern. You had a magnifying glass in the front of it to enlarge the picture. That was filled with distilled water. And yeah, I understand a lot of people at that time of year went out and bought new sets. And the TV then became quite a popular thing, although it obviously slowly came into use. But it was the coronation that sort of gave it the boost. And yeah, what's that? One good thing about it, there was no adverts on it. Today, it's TV is all blinking adverts. And so yeah, so that was that. That was in '53. Now, what can I think of after that? So many things. There was exhibitions which I went to with my father. One was it was the I don't know the correct name. It was the Exhibition of Britain. It was well known at the time. It was an exhibition of all modern things which we had obviously invented, and it was like a showcase to the world exactly how great we were. So So I remember that, and I think I've still got some a black and white photos of it. That was at the. I'm trying to think where it was. It was uptown, Waterloo area, I believe. Anyone else would obviously remember this as well. Another time, there was an exhibition when I've mentioned this before, and no one seems to know that it even existed. That was very interesting. All right, it was a few years after the exhibition of Britain. And it was an exhibition put on by GEC. It was at the time when I think they had merged with McMichael TV and Sobel. And there they showed colour TV. So that'll date it, but don't ask me what the dates were. That was quite an interesting thing, but no one seems to know anything about it. You had various companies within the GEC group, and I remember one company they had was the Express Lift Company, and they showed a floor selector clicking up and indicating on the floor. Obviously, he couldn't be in the lift there, so they just showed it. And I remember that. Also, different types of lamps which had been invented. Not a sight of LED. As I say, they were the good days. But anyhow, coming more up to date, I should be jabbering away hours, which I'm not going to. I don't want to send you all off to sleep. I suppose a lot of interest I've picked up. I might say that sport is something I've never enjoyed. I used to dread PE at school. Going out on the field, kicking a football about. Oh my God, how unbelievably boring. I know my grandfather said to me, "Oh, why don't you want a football?" And I thought, I don't want bloody football. Sorry about that. My interest is more on the sort of electrical things, antiques. I understand now why I'm interested in antiques and pussycats. Going back to my mother, who actually adored pussycats and was interested in antiques, particularly mirror, which my aunt had. And I think it should have gone to my mother, but unfortunately when my aunt died, it was taken by someone else. But anyhow, that's by the way. That's a long time ago. It was in Falkirk, which also brings back memories of going up there during. I must have been about bombing still, because I was a baby at the time, and I was taken to my aunt's house in Falkirk. Well, actually in Camberlin, which is a village or town next to Falkirk. The house has now gone. I think there's flats there. How everything has been changed. And you'd go up, walk up, I think it was Union Street, up to the canal, which would go along and eventually go to Falkirk. That was memories of that. So many memories of things. And I remember my aunt was so concerned because she couldn't find tokens to order a bottle of milk. It appeared that you had to put a token out to get a bottle of milk. I think that was the other Co-op dairy. But anyhow, that was one thing I remember. There was other dairies. I think one was called Polmont, the dairy. But anyway, yeah, I'm sort of vague in these things. But anyway, I'm gonna end this soon. I'm jabbering on. I'd just like to say that I haven't been happy with the way things have gone. As I say, remember the war years, or just remember them. I was a baby. And now things, whenever you turn the TV on, perhaps I shouldn't turn it on, you see sights which I remember even worse than what I remember of places that have been bombed. I just, I just don't know when it's going to end. You've got the troubles in Russia. What is going to happen there? I don't know. As I say, I think before, I'm in my 80s, which, taking everything in, that's not a bad age. Okay, I don't intend to kick the bucket just yet. I've got too many things to do, too many things to look after. There she is, Tabitha. She's 12 years old. So yeah, I've got a lot to do. I'm just worried that are we going to get another world war? Things scare me, and the words that Keith said about history happening, it, to my mind, it's more or less what happened the start of the Second World War. So, I'm sorry to be giving this talk. Perhaps I'm a great thinker, I don't know. It's something that worries me a lot, and I say I'm grateful that I'm the age I am. Most of my life has been quite enjoyable. Okay, I've hated sport, as you know, but that's just one thing. Most of the things I've done, the plants, cacti and succulents, I joined them when I was about 15 and still a member. It just shows you what can be done. So, let's hope that things are going to cheer up. I'm not going to hold my breath. I just don't know what's going to happen. And in America, with Trump sort of on the the chances of getting in, I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't. So I think, in my opinion, perhaps the most dangerous time of the year. I remember the Bay of Pigs, when it goes back to the days of Kennedy, that was a flashpoint. The Bay of Pigs. That was you'll know what it was. It was one of the things that you remember in your life. And another thing I remember talking about Kennedy is where were you when you heard the news that Kennedy had died or been assassinated? I was in the Chase Fisheries buying some fish and chips. So I do remember that. And yeah, when the Twin Towers were blown up with the planes flying into it. Yeah, I remember there where I was. It was at my local vet's. So these things are imprinted on the mind. Although my memory is a bit dodgy on certain things, as long as I don't have to remember numbers. Numbers are something I just have difficulties with, and this is probably why I was held back at school. Well, I think I'm blooming sure it was, because mathematics I could never understand. I did it, fortunately passed it for joining the post office. They had like a test. I know my father said, "Oh, you've got a maths test. You won't pass that." Well, he was wrong. I did pass it. So I'm perhaps not as thick as some people may think I am, and often moan about computers, which I think in some ways have caused a lot of trouble. There's good things about them, but I think there's a lot of bad things about them. Anyway, I'm going to shut up now. I'll put this one up. I don't know how long I'll put it up for. It's just a little bit of history in my lifetime. I put various things in the past up. Yeah, I think in some ways are interesting. I should probably think of a more interesting as soon as I've closed down. So I would definitely shut up now. Kept it on too long. So once again, thanks for listening. Any memories that yourselves have got? I particularly like the old shops I used to go to. Ben Salmon Radio of Romford Road at Manor Park. Proops, which I've mentioned. Henry's Radio. Lyle Street, as I say, with the a trading, I don't know the name, but they sold various lamps. They were quite interesting. A load of places I just don't remember. And of course, round home at the time was Harverson's, Servio Radio, Surbiton Park Radio in Surbiton, all gone. Watts Radio, Kingston, gone. They, in fact, it was the first place I saw the dancing carbon filament lamps, which they had a magnet in it, and the filament would dance when they were lit by AC. So yeah, a lot of things have happened. Also, I can think of the old wiring, how the wiring's changed. I know my father wired part of the house which had gone faulty, and he used this new plastic coated wire. It was new. The old stuff was like I think it was cab tire, it was called. It was in a thick rubber with cloth coating round it, and the number of strands depending, when I say strands, they were the wire cores, depended on what they were used for. On lighting, you just had one core. So they were, as I say, quite unusual. But I think that's all gone now. Anyhow, thanks for listening. I'm going to shut up now. I might have sort of brought to mind certain things. I know it obviously have to be someone sort of my age group who remembers a lot of these things. I remember them with interest. I haven't mentioned anything about the plants or various nurseries where I'd gone to on the continent. I've got so much, so save that for another little ramblings. Anyhow, thanks again for listening and putting up with my ramblings. And yeah, I'm going to clear down. Thank you.